Dentistry made easy. Today is major connectors from the topic that is removal partial dentures from prosthodontics. So about removal partial dentures, like the introduction to it, I have covered already. And the components of removal partial dentures are direct retainers, indirect retainers, major connector, minor connector, denture base, then rest and rest seats, and V teeth, artificial teeth. So I have covered about direct retainers earlier. So starting off with the second component, that is the major connector. According to the definition, it says it is a part of the removal partial denture which connects the component of the one side of the arch to the components of the other side of the arch. And it is given by GPT, that is Glossary of Prosthodontic Terms. So connector, major connector. Connector is nothing but the thing that connects something, right? So major and minor. Minor is a smaller one, major is a bigger one. So it's like this is the component that is your major connector. Now over here, as you can see, it is connecting this part to the other part. So it's connecting components of one side of the arch to the component of the other side of the arch. So this is your major connector. Now major connector, so this one is a metallic framework and this one is an acrylic one. So acrylic denture base and metal denture base, and this one is fabricated by the procedure that is your casting procedures, and this one is the one that we usually do like for the complete denture also. So this is like your removal partial dentures. So this forms your framework, and it's like it connects all the parts of one side of the arch to the other side of the arch. So it's connecting these two. So this is your major connector and it forms the basic framework. So this is again the metallic one, and about this I'm going to cover later in the denture basis. So this is your major connector. What are the ideal requirements of it? So the first one is rigidity. It should not be flexible. It should be rigid enough to uniformly distribute the occlusal forces which are acting on the portion of the prosthesis without undergoing distortion. So it should be rigid enough and it should not be flexible so that it can distribute forces which are acting on the prosthesis without undergoing distortion. So this is like the main requirement of major connector. The next one is it should support, like it should provide vertical support and it should protect soft tissue. So what is support? Support is nothing but the forces which resist the forces of mastication or the occlusal forces. So basically it's like the forces which are applied in the direction in towards the denture bearing area. So the vertical forces. So now during mastication, so it should provide, so during mastication the forces which are applied on the denture, so it should provide that vertical support towards it. The next is it should provide a means of indirect retention whenever required. So as we have seen in direct retainers about direct retention. So now your prosthesis, it requires retention to stay in its position. So indirect retention is nothing but like it assists the direct retention. So it assists the direct retainers in preventing the displacement of the denture. So it's like, for example, so there's a seesaw. So you have this fulcrum in between and two people, they are sitting on the either side of the seesaw. So on one side it is like direct retainer, on the other side it's indirect retainer. So your indirect retainer, it is assisting the direct retainers so that it doesn't undergo the displacement, right? So it's basically that only, indirect retention. So your major connector, it should provide a means of indirect retention whenever it is required. So your major connector, it should provide indirect retention. So it should like assist your denture, so prosthesis, so that it should not be displaced. The next is it should provide opportunity for positioning denture base where needed. So again, it's like your denture base. So this is your denture base and it should provide the opportunity for positioning the denture base wherever it is needed. Then it should be comfortable to the patient. Obviously, it should not hamper the patient and it should be comfortable to them. Then it should not allow any food accumulation. It should have positive tight contacts so that there is no food accumulation between the soft tissue and your denture. And it should be self-cleansing. So these are the ideal requirements of major connectors. What are the design considerations of major connectors? So it's like these are the general design considerations when you're designing any major connector, irrespective whether it is maxillary or mandibular. So the first one is intentional relief. The border of the major connector, it should be 6 mm away from the gingival margin in the maxillary arch in order to avoid injury to highly vascular marginal gingiva. So this is your marginal gingiva, and the border of your maxillary major connector, it should be 6 mm away from this, because your marginal gingiva is highly vascular. And if you are designing your major connector near to the marginal gingiva, so it will injure the marginal gingiva, so the tissue. So it should be 6 mm away from them. And in the mandible, it should be 3 mm away from the marginal gingiva. So in maxillary, it is 6 mm away from the marginal gingiva, and in mandible, it is 3 mm away from the marginal gingiva. And if it is not possible, it is extended across the marginal gingiva as a lingual plate. So there can be this case where there is like mobility. So in this case, you cannot like provide this intentional relief. At that time, what you can do is you can extend it across the marginal gingiva, and you're designing a major connector such that it acts as a lingual plate, so above the teeth. It should not be near the gingival margins, it should be above, and it should cross the marginal gingiva. So this was the first design consideration. The borders of the major connector, it should be parallel to the gingival margin. So your borders, they are parallel to the margins. The next is the metal framework. It should cross the gingival margin only at right angle. So this one. So the metal framework. So this framework, it should cross. So when it is crossing the gingival margin, it should be at right angle, and it should not be in such manner. It should be properly right angle. The next is the part of the framework which is adjoining the tooth surface. It should be hidden in the embragures to avoid discomfort. So now over here, as you can see, so embragures, when you are designing it, so the part of the framework which is adjoining the tooth surface, so it should be hidden. So over here, as you can see, it is hidden in the embragures so that it is not discomforting the patient. So it should be hidden. The next is the borders of the major connector. It should be rounded to avoid interference to the tongue. So now the border of your major connector should be rounded so that it is avoiding interference to the tongue over here. If it is sharp, so there's this like, if it is not rounded, it will again injure the soft tissues. So it should be rounded. The next is the major connector. It should be symmetrical, and it should cross the palate in a straight line. So your major connector, it should be symmetrical. The anterior border of the maxillary major connector, it should end in the valley of Rugae, and it should not be designed such that it never lies on the crest of the rugae to prevent any discomfort during speech. So now what is exactly rugae? So rugae are this. So now this. So this is like irregular shaped rolls of soft tissue. So rugae are like the mucosal fold which are located in the anterior region of the palatal mucosa. And as you know, we have seen in complete denture, it acts as a secondary stress bearing area. So these are the rugae. They are the irregularly shaped rolls of soft tissue. So as it says, the anterior border of the maxillary major connector, it should end in the valley of rugae, and it should not be designed such that it lies on the crest. So this is like this irregular fold, it is your crest, and between these two crests is this valley. The depression is this valley. So your connector, the anterior border, so this is your anterior border. So it should be designed such that it should end in the valley. So it should be between these two crests, and it should never be on the crest of the rugae. Because what happens is, if you design a maxillary major connector on this crest, then it will cause discomfort to the patient during speech. So it should be between these two crests. But it should be in this valley, that is this depression between these two crests. The next is it should not extend over the bony prominence like tori, and relief is given for small tori, and if there are the larger ones, so surgical excision is done. So this is like a bony prominence. This is a tori, palatal tori. So relief is given in such cases, and if it is small one, then you are giving relief, and if this tori is a larger one, so what you do is you surgically remove that tori. So these are the design consideration for your designing of major connectors. There are additional requirements which are particular for maxillary and mandibular. The first is the first additional requirement for maxillary is a beading. Beading is nothing but you're scribbing, like scribbing of a shallow groove. So beading is rounded thick border. It should be given to the posterior margin of your maxillary major connector to provide seal with the soft tissue. So this is like here. So you make a groove on the master cast. So it's like over here. When the denture is in position, and hence it prevents the entry of these small food particles, and this is created by making a 0.5 to 1 mm groove on the master cast with the help of a spoon excavator. So over here, so this is your master cast, and what you're doing is with the help of spoon excavator, you're making this 0.5 to 1 mm groove on the posterior border of your major connector. And then when you're doing this casting procedure, so now you can see this is the elevated portion. So over here, as you can see, so this is the elevated portion after it gets casted. So beading is usually done so that it prevents the entry of small food particles. So it provides good contact between the soft tissue and the denture. So beading is done on the posterior border. The next is usually relief should not be given for maxillary major connector. It's because there should be close adaptation is necessary for retention and stability of dentures. So usually relief is not given. Exceptions are when there is palatal tori or when there is prominent mid-palatine suture. If there are this two, then you should give relief, or else you should not give relief in maxillary major connectors. Is the additional requirements for the mandibular major connector. Now, unlike maxillary major connector, mandibular major connector, they should have adequate clearance for the tongue. Now, as you know, you have this when you're constructing or when you're designing this mandibular. So now there's this tongue. So there should be adequate clearance that should be provided for the tongue in mandibular major connectors. So they are designed, so they are fabricated using this following design concepts. The first one is like they are longer and they are narrower than the palatal connectors due to the interference from the tongue. So because of this tongue, so they are usually longer and they are narrower than the palatal ones. And relief is usually given in all cases. Now we have seen in maxillary we don't give relief, but in mandibular we give relief in all cases. And the amount it varies based on so which type of major connector you are using. It depends upon that, but you are giving relief. And the second is the amount of the slope in the tissue which is lingual to the anterior teeth. So the amount of the slope in the tissue. So depending upon this, the amount it varies. The amount of relief is varying. Then the additional relief it should be given in distal extension cases. So distal extension cases are nothing but Kennedy's class 1 and class 2. Distal extension is when it is tooth bounded on one side and tissue bounded on the one side, on the other side. So it's like class 1 and class 2 where there is edentulous space which is present posterior to the remaining natural teeth. So after that, like posterior to your edentulous space, there is no teeth. So that is your distal extension cases. And at that time, you're giving additional relief. Why? Because it's like, this is because rotational movement of the denture base can traumatize the gingiva. So this is the reason where you're giving more, like where you're giving additional relief. And these are like the additional requirement for the mandibular major connectors. So over here. So lingual major connector, it should be designed in harmony with the lingual musculature because there's this tongue which is present. Then the slope of the lingual alveolar plate, it determines the need for relief in the mandibular major connector. If the slope of the lingual alveolar plate is vertical, minimal relief is required. So this is the case again. So this is the slope. And in this case, if the slope is vertical, so now you can see, now over here, as you can see, the slope So if it is not vertical, it is too horizontally sloping. So now you are seeing that we are giving more relief. So the distance between your gingival margin and your border of your maxillary, of your mandibular major connector, it is more. So you are giving more relief. But now if your slope, it is vertical. So this time you are giving less relief. So the relief is reduced. So this one is the case. Now it's like the spaces which is available for the placement, and it can be evaluated using, there are two methods where you can see how much space is available for the placement of your denture. So first one is measuring with the periodontal probe. So the patient he is asked to protrude his tongue. So over here the patient is asked to protrude his tongue, and he's asked to touch the vermilion border of the upper lip. So he's asked to touch the outer portion of your upper lip, so that the tissues in the floor of the mouth, they are activated. And then the depth of the lingual sulcus, it is measured near the canine and the central incisors. And so you are using this probe and you are measuring the lingual sulcus, and this is usually the preferred method. The next method is using this tracing compound. So what it is, like an impression tray whose lingual border is about 3 mm short of an elevated floor of the mouth is used. So you're using this impression trace in which the lingual border, it is 3 mm short of the floor of the mouth. The lingual sulcus is recorded with the help of this tracing compound. So after border molding, the impression is made using this tray. The exact sulcus depth and the width, they are reproduced in the cast, and this cast, it is used to fabricate this framework. So basically this is a much complicated method. So we are not using this tracing compound method, but the one which we are using is this measuring with the periodontal probe. So these are the additional requirements for your mandibular major connectors. So your major connectors, they are classified depending upon where it is used. Where it is used is maxillary or mandibular. So depending upon the material which is used, that is metal or acrylic. And third is depending upon the movement of the denture base, whether it is rigid or non-rigid. So this is like classification of your major connectors. On the first, where it is used, the maxillary and the mandibular major connectors. So maxillary major connectors are all this one. First is single posterior palatal bar, double palatal bar, single broad palatal plate, palatal strap, horseshoe connector, closed horseshoe, and complete palate. So mandibular are the lingual bar, lingual plate, mandibular cingulum bar, sublingual bar, Kennedy's bar, and labial bar. So these is like all the major connectors which are used in maxilla and in mandible. Now about this I'm going to cover in my next video. Like I'm going to explain each one of this in depth, about its uses, like where exactly it is used, the advantages of each one of these, disadvantages, like where you should exactly use which one, like in which case you should use which one. So this video, I hope you found this video helpful. Thank you so much.